There are some games that hit you in the gut not because of the scoreboard, but because of the way everything unfolded. Steelers fans didn't just watch their team lose to the Bengals. They watched a unit that's supposed to be this team's backbone, the defense, completely fall apart. No Joe Burrow, no dominant run game, no elite offensive line, and still 33 points, 470 yards, and you're left asking yourself, how? How did this happen? Let's not pretend the bar was set sky high. We weren't asking for miracles. We weren't hopping for perfection. We just wanted the offense to show up and do what a halfway decent NFL offense should be able to do, put 30 points on the board. And they did. 31 to be exact. That should have been enough. That's the kind of offensive output that in a game like this should absolutely walk away with a win. But it didn't. Why? Because everything that this defense has supposedly built over the last month just vanished in prime time. You want to talk about regression? This wasn't a step back. This was a total collapse. You had a Bengals offense with a backup quarterback in Joe Flacco. Yeah, that Joe Flacco throwing for over 340 yards. You had Jammer Chase catching 16 passes. T. Higgins, 96 yards of his own. Chase Brown, a running back who's been one of the least productive in the league all year, averaged almost 10 yards a carry. 108 yards on just 11 rushes. 11. That's almost a first down every time he touched the ball. It's not just about the loss. It's the how. How did a defense that looked like it was getting better suddenly look like it forgot how to tackle, how to communicate, how to show up? Because if we're being honest, there were no answers coming from that locker room after the game. None. Just silence, confusion, and a whole lot of guys looking around like they didn't know what just hit them. And for fans who take pride in this franchise's identity, hard-nosed defense, physical football, this wasn't just disappointing. It was embarrassing. Look, the Steelers were supposed to be built around that defense. It's why nobody panicked when the offense sputtered early in the season. It's why people bought into the low-scoring wins. But what happens when that defense doesn't show up? What happens when the big names, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, are nowhere to be found? What happens when the inside linebackers who had been turning heads for weeks go completely invisible? You get exposed. And that's exactly what happened. They got exposed. And yeah, you can talk about the officiating. There were some weak calls, no doubt. Joey Porter Jr. got flagged for some ticky-tack stuff. He wasn't happy about it, and who can blame him? But let's be real. That wasn't the difference between winning and losing. That wasn't why Chase Brown looked like prime Barry Sanders. That wasn't why the Bengals were able to convert again and again and again, doing whatever they wanted out there. Porter was asked about the challenge of covering both Chase and Higgins at once, two elite wideouts. His response, "We've got the guys to do it. They just gotta let us play." That's the kind of answer you expect, right? He's not going to throw the coaching staff under the bus. He's not going to admit defeat. But what you're left with is a vague frustration. And that's what defined the post-game vibe: vague frustration, vague confusion, no real answers. Not even from leaders like Patrick Queen or Alex Highsmith, who have been the voices of the defense for weeks. Highsmith was asked about the run defense, about why it vanished into thin air. His answer, just gotta be more physical, just gotta get off blocks. Okay. But where was that physicality? Where was that urgency when the Bengals were ripping off chunk plays? And then you start hearing the same old excuses creeping in: short week, Thursday night football, not enough time to prepare. Sorry, not buying it. Not when the other team had the exact same schedule. The Bengals didn't get extra rest. They didn't get to practice while the Steelers sat on a plane. Both coaching staffs had the same amount of time to install a game plan, and only one of them clearly did. And it was Pittsburgh. You know how you know the Bengals were more prepared? Because they ran plays that surprised people. That Flacco bootleg had the entire stadium gasping. When was the last time a Steelers play call had that kind of effect? Cincinnati had answers. They knew how to attack this defense, and the Steelers didn't adjust. They didn't change anything even after halftime, even as the same plays kept hurting them. Same alignments, same coverages, no wrinkles, no creativity. And that's not just on the players. That's a coaching failure. That's on Terrell Austin, on Mike Tomlin. You've got to ask yourself, are these schemes even built for the NFL in 2025? Are they built for this roster? Because cover 2, cover 3, sending 4 pass rushers every single time, that's not going to cut it when the other team has receivers that can burn you one-on-one and a quarterback who's been around long enough to know exactly where the soft spot is. This wasn't one of those games where you tip your cap to the other team and say, they just had our number. This was a game where you have to admit the entire setup was wrong. Wrong prep. Wrong plan, wrong execution, and if you don't acknowledge that, nothing gets fixed. If this coaching staff doesn't look itself in the mirror and ask hard questions, then guess what? This will happen again, because what we saw wasn't bad luck, it was bad football. Steelers fans don't expect wins every week, but they expect their team to look like it belongs on the field. They expect pride, discipline, fundamentals. What they got instead was a defense that looked lost, coaches that looked stubborn, and a game plan that looked like it was written on the flight over. This wasn't just a bad night. It was a reality check. And the harsh truth? Until someone takes real responsibility for this mess, until someone admits that the defensive structure might be broken, this team isn't going anywhere. Because if 2 good games out of 6 is what we're calling progress now, then the standard has dropped. And in Pittsburgh, the standard isn't supposed to drop. You could feel it coming too, that sense of unraveling. It wasn't one big play. It wasn't one major collapse. It was a slow, steady leak, yard by yard, missed tackle by missed tackle, until the dam finally gave out. It was 1,000 little things that piled up, each one making it clearer and clearer that this defense wasn't ready. Not for this opponent, not for that stage, not even for themselves. And yeah, when you start asking questions, people want to simplify it. They want one villain. Fire the coordinator. Bench the corner. Change the scheme. It's cleaner that way, right? One fix, one person to blame, but that's not what this is. This isn't one thing. This is a system-wide failure. Take the tackling, for instance. That wasn't about X's and O's. That was effort. That was technique. That was guys forgetting the basics, wrapping up, driving through contact, angling properly. You don't need to install a new defense to make a tackle. You just have to want it. You just have to bring it. And that wasn't there. You saw it in the open field. You saw it at the line. You saw it when Chase Brown was bouncing off defenders like they were made of paper. And maybe some of that comes from trying too hard to force takeaways. Maybe some of these guys are focused more on stripping the ball than actually finishing the play. That's a fair question. The Steelers haven't had a single takeaway since that game in Ireland. Not one. A defense built on splash plays, on turnovers, suddenly can't even sniff the ball. And when you're trying so hard to rip it out, you sometimes forget to stop the forward progress first. But even that doesn't explain it all. You can try to create turnovers and still play fundamentally sound defense. That's not an excuse. What's scarier is that it just didn't feel like there was any fire out there. No edge, no bite, no pride, not even frustration. Patrick Queen, a guy who's usually got something to say, didn't have much of anything this time. No angry sound bites, no fire, just a short answer. We need to be better. That's it. And maybe that's the most telling thing of all. Not just that they got beat, but that they got beat and didn't seem to have any fight left after it happened. And look, Mike Tomlin's name is going to come up. Of course it is. That's how this works. He's the head coach. It always starts with him, and if this defense keeps collapsing like this, there's no avoiding that heat. And yes, Terrell Austin deserves his share of criticism, too. The unit looks unprepared, it looks inflexible, and it looks like it has no plan B when plan A fails. But if you're looking for a change at coordinator midseason, forget it. That's not happening. That's just not how the Steelers operate. They don't do panic moves. They don't fire coaches during the year. Whether that's right or wrong, that's how it is. So if this is the crew that's going to finish the season, they'd better start looking at themselves a lot harder. Because this defense doesn't work. Not the way it's currently constructed. Not with this group of players doing what they're being asked to do. And no, it's not all about effort. Sometimes it really is about scheme. Are you playing to your players' strengths? Are you adapting to what the other team is doing? Because that's what good coaching looks like. It's not just about having a system. It's about knowing when to break it. And Cincinnati, they broke theirs, they adjusted, they planned for this. They took a backup quarterback, a banged-up offense, and they still found a way to pick the Steelers apart. They knew where the weak spots were. They found them and hit them again and again. That's not just execution, that's preparation. That's what this coaching staff failed to do, failed completely. And please spare me the talk about Thursday night weirdness, about short weeks and biorhythms and routines. That's just noise, because the BENGALS had the same exact schedule. They had the same amount of time to prepare, and they showed up ready to roll. The Steelers didn't, simple as that. It's not about what day of the week the game was played. It's not about superstition. It's about accountability. When something's broken, you fix it. When something, not working, you adjust. You don't just cross your fingers and hope that a little extra rest or a few angry team meetings are going to solve it. You fix the system, or you stay stuck. Right now, this defense is stuck. Stuck in predictable looks, stuck in soft coverages, stuck in this belief that reputation is going to stop someone instead of actual execution, and other teams are starting to figure that out. They're not afraid of the Steelers' defense anymore. They don't see that logo and get intimidated. They look at this group and think, we can beat them, we just have to stay patient, stick with our plan. Sooner or later, they'll fold. And that's the reputation shift that's underway right now. That's what's really on the line here. Because once a defense gets labeled as soft or undisciplined or beatable, it's hard to shake that. The film gets passed around. The tendencies get shared. And every week, the target on your back gets a little bit bigger. That's where Pittsburgh is. That's the hole they've dug. And climbing out of it won't be about some inspirational speech or one lucky bounce. It's going to take serious work, hard questions, brutal honesty, and above all, change, not just in words, but in action. The reality is that it's going to take more than film study and walkthroughs to fix this. It's going to take humility, accountability, a willingness to say, what we're doing isn't working. And that's a hard thing for any coaching staff to admit, especially one led by a head coach as proud and established as Tomlin. But if they don't have that conversation now, it's going to be forced on them later, and by then, it'll be too late. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In an unprecedented move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, the highly anticipated clash between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals has reportedly been canceled. Sources close to the league suggest that the decision, which is said to be final, came out of nowhere, leaving fans, players, and analysts scrambling for explanations. The Steelers-Bengals matchup, always a highlight of the season due to its storied rivalry and intense playoff implications, now hangs in limbo under circumstances that remain murky. Whispers around the league hint at possible off-field controversies or logistical nightmares, though official statements have been vague, fueling speculation. Some insiders suggest that player safety concerns, unusual for a mid-season game, could have played a role, while others point to behind-the-scenes disputes between team management and the league. Whatever the cause, the cancellation marks a rare moment in NFL history, a reminder that even the most carefully planned events are not immune to disruption. Fans took to social media in droves, expressing disbelief and frustration. Many lamented missing the chance to see rising stars face off against seasoned veterans, while others joked about the curse of the Steelers-Bengals rivalry. Betting lines, fantasy football projections, and television schedules are all reportedly in chaos as a result, with sportsbooks scrambling to adjust odds and networks considering alternative programming. The ripple effect of this cancellation could be felt for weeks, if not months, depending on how the league resolves the situation. Players from both teams have remained tight-lipped, though a few cryptic posts and cryptic gestures during practice sessions have done little to quell the rumor mill. Coaches are reportedly holding private meetings, perhaps to strategize for a rescheduled encounter, or, more likely, to navigate the unprecedented fallout. Analysts have begun drawing parallels to historical anomalies in sports, but even seasoned commentators admit that nothing quite like this has happened in the NFL era. While the league has promised an official explanation soon, insiders warn that fans should brace themselves for a complicated and potentially controversial resolution. For now, the Steelers-Bengals game exists more as legend than reality, a tantalizing, what could have been, that will dominate headlines and conversations for weeks. Rumors will continue to swirl, theories will abound, but one fact remains indisputable. The NFL has delivered one of its most astonishing shocks in recent memory, and no one is entirely sure what comes next. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.